Hey, it's Nicole Kellerman-Worth, CEO of WildBeAlive.com, where we help women get on the same team as their bodies so they can feel and look their best. When a woman realizes how badass her body is, she feels alive and is no longer afraid to create the life she's always wanted. I know this to be true because it's happened to me and thousands of our clients. Welcome to the journey of getting on the same team as your body. Hello, sisters. Do I have a treat for you today? We're going to talk about something that, we're going to talk about rage. We're going to talk about anger. And what's interesting is within Wild Be Alive Mastery, we definitely talk about all emotions across the board. We have a class later on in the year called Body Talk, which is about the emotional body and the language of the body through emotions. And we talk about anger pretty thoroughly in that class. We don't talk about it a ton in the Soul Sister class, but I can see really clearly how talking about anger and talking about rage is actually a really important component of female to female relationships, because we've all heard women are the worst to each other. And a part of this could be because we have been told as women that we are supposed to be the good girl, that we can't be angry and we can't be mad. And it's not healthy and it's not safe for women to be angry or mad. And which is really interesting, because then on the flip side, the only socially acceptable emotion for a male is anger, right? And so we are humans with all emotions, and we don't categorize emotions at Wild Be Alive as good and bad. If we want to categorize them, we can just say good feeling emotions and bad feeling emotions, but we are emotional beings. We have all emotions, including anger. Now, there are some women who are maybe naturally feel anger more than others. But even if you are somebody who doesn't feel anger a lot, you still have that emotion in your body. And it's really important that we express that, because what I'm seeing and what is making sense on how, Tasha and I kind of hooked up and, all of this is, I could see how repressed anger could absolutely come out in the female and female relationships, because there is so much pain and betrayal and hurt in the area of our life. And also when we see another woman get angry, and we have been told that as a woman, we're not allowed to be angry, we judge that woman, and then we push females even further away. So it was kind of interesting when we started talking about this, because I was like, I don't really address this much in the Soul Sister class, but now I see that this could be a really important aspect, and why Tasha kind of showed up in my life to bring her onto the podcast is, this is a really important conversation, especially when we talk about women. So Tasha, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us why do you teach a class? She has a course, a program called Women's Sacred Rage. And so I would love to hear what brought you into the world of teaching women how to have a healthy relationship with anger and rage.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not, first of all, I'm so happy to be here. So thank you for having me. Anywhere I can talk about this subject. I'm just so passionate about it. It's definitely not the typical thing you would go into, it's not the, here's a money course, or here's a way to be happier. It's like, oh, here, step into the deepest shadow work of your life, come sign up and spend money on that, so most definitely not your normal thing. Right. But, it comes from my own anger issues as a child. I grew up in a household of 3 other siblings. I've been very outspoken and knew what I wanted from a very young age. And I wanted attention from my father. I wanted a relationship with him, and he didn't feel comfortable giving that to me. And so he would constantly reject me and emotionally abandon me. And every time that would happen, especially into my teenage years, I became volatile and would scream and get angry and upset. Sometimes I would take 2 weeks to get the courage up to ask him to do these things, knowing he'd probably say no. And then when he did, it was such a blow that, it just destroyed me. And so I took that anger into my adult years, unfortunately, and into relationships that, as we know, when things don't get resolved, they repeat patterns. And so it did. It went into all of my romantic relationships, my friendships. I would punch walls. I would throw shoes. I would throw phones, whatever it was. I was just super angry. Never hurt anyone physically, but yeah. And then fast forward, last November, I have done a lot of inner work for many, many years. And so when things aren't going right, I just do this natural process of like, what is it that I'm doing, thinking, saying, that is contributing to this? And one of the things that came up was anger. And the fact that I had never allowed myself to just be angry. In fact, I was alone in my house at this point, and the thought of getting angry just to be angry, I immediately thought of my parents and how they would judge me in a room by myself. And that made me angry. I was like, what? Because it's normally women, again, their anger has to be justified.
Right.
You can't just be angry. So
right.
I decided that I was going to give myself that gift. And I started walking around my house, pacing, thinking of every single thing that had ever pissed me off. Just not because there was a spiritual reason behind it, not because I knew they'd been through pain themselves. There was no reason. I just wanted to feel that. And this tornado type feeling started to happen in my body. And when I had thought of every last thing, I'm also a psychic and a healer. And I had heard my ex-boyfriend from high school that had passed over 2 weeks before this happened. I heard him say to me, let it all go. And I grabbed the sides of my stove and I screamed a scream that has never come out of me, ever. It was not a normal scream. And as soon as it happened, I felt lighter and freer and happy and in awe. And the first thing I thought was, I got to get on Facebook and tell everyone about this because my whole life's on there. And so I did. And you see it in the live. I get this message in the middle of telling everyone, I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to do a program around this. And so 2 other women, one of them is still with me on the program from the very beginning, Jacqueline Faith. She's the other half of the program. We decided to do a 3-day course. And at first we thought, we're just going to get some women together and we're just going to be angry and give us a place to be mad because nobody gets that. It was like this surface type thing. Oh no. The universe and God had way bigger plans, because that first 3-day course, women were on day 1 looked one way, on day 3 looked another. One woman had TMJ in her jaw for over a year, had to have medication and a night guard to sleep every night. After the program, gone, never came back.
Wow.
Her doctor was like, what happened? She's like, I don't know. I guess I was pissed off. I guess I had a lot of anger in there. She's like, so, and clearing deep 20 plus years of deep sexual trauma in 3 days, like just, and women were having full body detoxes. It was incredible and insane. So we've been doing it for over a year now, but yeah, that's really where it came from, was my own sacred rage scream that also catapulted me. It alchemized. Okay, so in November 2020, that's what happened. A month later, I decide, after being 15 years of dealing with severe agoraphobia, which is where you're housebound and can't leave your house.
Right.
So I decided in December that a 2021 version of me didn't give into irrational fear anymore. So that fear, and I didn't put that together, by the way, till 5 months later. I was like, oh, I think it's because of that sacred rage scream that I had now it shifted. Because when you're angry all the time, it's fuel for fear. It's fake protecting you, right? So you've got all those other emotions underneath there, and thinks it's protecting you. So anybody that gets too close to that, a woman that triggers your mother wounds, your sisterhood wounds, anybody that happens to touch anything that's on there, you're going to do whatever it takes to push them away. And there's different layers of anger, right? You've got repressed, you've got where you shut down, you people please, you shut down. And then you've got the people who are out of control, right? So there's all these different avenues. Women normally have sarcasm. Get a lot of sarcasm that comes through with women when they're pissed off. So that fueled me, and I healed myself past 15 years of that. Yeah. 95% of it anyway, in 2 months with no medication, no therapy. And that's what's happening. It's alchemizing. So now it's courage, bravery, goal setting. It's like your biggest ally.
Right, right. So as you all are listening to this, I really think it's important for you to check in with your discomfort right now. Because when we talk about anger later on in mastery, there's this sense of unsafety that comes up. And I think that's really normal because most of us have seen anger in a very unhealthy environment, right? Where, there was people screaming and yelling and, yes, maybe even potentially harming you or punching a wall next to you or something like that. And so again, like, we believe that, just all anger is bad. All anger is bad. But like Tasha is saying, is like, yes, those individuals who come off really angry, they have deeper work to do. And it's just like when they get set off, they can't control. It's this, I could see how this sacred scream is this very deep healing process of releasing so much pent up sadness and hurt and anger out of your system, so you're not a ticking time bomb. And so those people in our lives who are ticking time bombs, who are a little bit more volatile, I definitely have somebody in my life that I grew up with that was very reactive, eggshell environment, right? And we feel like, the truth is that they could probably benefit from a sacred scream and how healing it would be. And when they do that, then this like ticking time bomb type of mentality or, reaction that they have will probably release, and they'll find a healthier way to navigate their emotions, because it's just not all like sitting right here at the surface, at the top of your neck. And then the minute something sets it off, you lose control. It's a more controlled way of processing your emotions in a healthy environment. So then, you process through, right? Emotions are energy in motion. They say that all you need to do is feel an emotion for 90 seconds to fully release it. But the problem is we feel an emotion, we go up into our head, we go up into a story, we can't be feeling this, we shouldn't be feeling this, or he said that, or she said that. And then we exacerbate the emotion. We don't actually just sit there and feel the emotion. So again, like sacred screaming sounds like it's just like this huge release of something that's it's already in your body. It's already there.
Yeah. And it's like, I tell people what you're talking about in the different screams, right? So this isn't the type of scream that you go into your car and, I mean, people do that, but that you're just had it up to here, right? You're like, it has to get out. I have to like explode. That's great. We all feel a release off that. I don't know about you, but when I scream like that, I'm out for 24 hours because it really does like release something. That's awesome. But when you're doing a process, which is there's like steps to before you actually scream, there's steps you're doing up until that point. What's happening is everything you're mad about is attaching to that scream physically, and it is physically coming out of your tissues. It's coming out of your body. It's not there anymore. One of the biggest things we've seen when you're talking about how it affects how other people who are angry in your life, and it's scary, right? I have testimonial after testimonial after testimonial of women saying, oh, I was angry about so-and-so. And then once I did the program, that person came towards me. One woman said, I've been in custody with my son for years with the father of his child. Did the program. He literally called her and said, I'm dropping everything in the custody case. You can keep him. He's better off with you. And that happens over and over. The one we just did, the woman that I was just in my program, my recent one that I have going, she literally was like, I have a father figure. He didn't want to be in my life. I did all this anger when I was screaming about him. And the next morning he called me and said, hey, I miss you. I'm sorry I've been distant. I'd like to work things out and be in your life more. This is not a coincidence. It happens over and over again. And the screaming is not just one scream. These women are going for 20 minutes straight. And it's like scream, cry, take a break, scream, cry, take a break. But their eyes are still closed. They're still in it. And everything's coming out. They just haven't been given a space. You're right. With men, it's a natural, it's a normal, you're aggressive and you should be that way. It's expected. But with women, we don't get that. We don't, and it's, I've heard women say, I've done this, I've done anger work. I don't really know if I'm that angry of a person. I don't really know. Those people are the most pissed off. Those people are the most angry. Women that tell me, I just don't know if I'm that angry. Oh, you're super pissed. You've been stuffing and people pleasing for so long and trying to be perfect for the world and in your business and all the things so that everybody will like you and think you're amazing, that you are so pissed off. It's not even funny.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is so for those of you who are like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to be screaming and crying. Like, there's a process, okay? Like, and just all we're asking is you just stay open.
Yeah.
And breathe through the discomfort of the idea of you screaming. Like, just okay, I understand. It feels weird. It feels uncomfortable.
Scary.
A part of you is like, no way, Jose. I just want to shut this off. This is crazy. I just invite you to just breathe. You're feeling a little discomfort. We're pushing that edge. That's the whole entire point of being here and paying attention, is we're here to challenge you. And so just breathe through it. It's okay. It's okay if this is an uncomfortable conversation to have. I just kind of went through my own, this is also what was interesting, is just not that long ago, just recently, I went through a few days of like just feeling really, really freaking angry. Just so angry. And because I teach that there is no bad emotion out there and you have to process through, and there is something called emotional bypassing, where there's like this toxic positivity, this Pollyanna, everything's fine. No, it's fine. I was pissed. I was really, really angry, really angry. And I could not, like, I just was like, this is where I am. And I have to just accept that this is where I am. And I shared it with women and friends who were safe for me to speak this to. And, you know, I got angry. I got angry at my higher power. I let myself say it. I let myself put it on paper. I let myself really, really just be in it and not try to cookie code it. And it did last a few days, honestly. And I would wake up and I would be like pissed off that I was still pissed off. And I was like, well, this is where I am. And I'm not like, because one of my friends was like, you keep on saying, you need to shift this. You need to shift this. You need to shift this. I know I need to shift this. I know I should go out for a walk and shift this. And she goes, why don't you just be in it? Why don't you just like really allow yourself to just be in it? And I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah, I am going to be in it. And I wouldn't say like, I wasn't like angry at my husband, or I wasn't angry at Wyatt. I just let myself be in my own, and I wasn't like a horrible person to hang out with during that time. I just owned that I can operate through my life and still be a kind human to others, while owning the fact that like, I'm just going through a period where I'm feeling really angry. And what had happened is when I went really in, I didn't actually scream, which sounds very cathartic. I did a process of tapping, well, just saying really horrible things that were already in my mind and body anyway. They were there anyway. Yeah. And so what naturally started to happen is I started turning towards the light. So something that we talk about in Wildly Alive is go deep and dark to find the light. So the only way out is through. So sometimes you just have to go deep and dark and ugly, and you have to let yourself go there. And when you do that, you find the light. And so what happened after I did this tapping session of just really getting so angry and saying all the horrible things that were already running through my mind and not feeling bad about that, is naturally I started to find the light. Naturally, I started to find the lesson. Naturally, I started opening myself up to why is this really happening to me? How can I grow? How can I evolve because of the situation that I'm so angry in? And if we don't let ourselves do that, this is what we're saying. You get reactive. You get like, this is where the unhealthy anger that we're all attaching this conversation to, we're not talking about that. That's where the unhealthy anger, the unsafe anger comes out, is when you don't fully process through the darkness to find the light. You go back into the story. You go back into this. You don't go through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that if you are a woman who feels like you're super activated by this, that's because it's for you. I guarantee you, if this is the first time you're watching something like this and this is the first time you're feeling activated by it, other things are going to come up and it's going to keep nagging at you because it's meant for you. So there's something really beautiful on the other side of that, right? And there's something to be said about, yes, when we think about doing these things on our own, it does feel very scary. But when you can find sisterhood and you can find a group of women, even if it's not my program, there's other things that are happening out there, not quite like what I'm doing, but there are other things and other women. There's women groups. You could just get like 5 women together and just be like, hey, can we witness each other in our anger, for today? Can we do those things? When you do that, your body feels safe to let go of it. Right. And when it lets go of it, it doesn't hang around. People are afraid, oh, well, the anger is going to burn off. And then underneath is all this pain that it's been protecting. So what, now I'm going to have to process all of that. And that's not what happens. I've seen it over and over again. Once that comes out, it comes up to be witnessed, but then it's gone. It shifts all the way out. So, it's just really, really important stuff. And it does affect our business. It does affect our female relationships. It affects everything, because anger is meant for creativity. It's meant to burn things down to create something. And if you're not in your creative space, especially with your business, for one, or your relationships, they will suffer. You have to be in that space of having your heart open. And this is one of the biggest ways I've seen with women, that we are actually closed off and closed down. So we can't let anything else in.
Yeah. Well, that was actually a vision that kept on coming to me, is a fire. Like I kept on I'm a very visual person. I just kept on seeing fire, like destruction, but not destruction in like the negative sense, destruction for the growth that happens after the destruction. Like if something's not working in your life, there needs to be a crumbling. There needs to be a destruction of the current structure for a new structure to come in and rebuild. And rebirth. So, a rebirth. Exactly. So it's cool that you kind of brought that up. So, okay. So when within your programs, there's a lot of witnessing, maybe speaking a little bit to that, since we're talking about sisterhood relationships and stuff like that.
Yeah. So a lot of the things that I hear from the women in the program is, wow, I didn't know, somebody said this recently, I didn't know I needed permission. I didn't know that seeing another woman speak about her anger and get angry and holding space for her gave me permission to speak about my own. I didn't realize that. So being witnessed, like the first day, which I was telling you before we were recording, the first day of the program, the way we ask the women is, because a lot of them are, they're kind of like nervous and they don't know what to expect and like all the things, right? And so we ask them, we're like, well, everybody over in the room, tell us what you're afraid of. What are you afraid of in this program? What's the thing? Let's get it out. And every single one of them, I'm afraid I'm going to be judged. I'm afraid I'm going to be judged by the women. I'm afraid they're going to judge me for my story, that my story's not too big or not big enough. My story's, too big. I'm too much. Every single one of them. And then what happens is the women start to talk about their stories. And one of the things that we do, which is another form of witnessing you're talking about, is in a lot of group programs I've understood and heard, is that there's a lot of the facilitator talking, and there's like a time limit. Okay, we're only going to have class for an hour, so everybody has to whatever. I don't do that. So sometimes our classes go from 1 hour on up to 4 hours. Nobody has to be there for that long by any means. You can turn your screen off and whatever. It's very flexible, but I don't want to put a cap on what women are trying to say. And so because of that, there is this freedom to because again, a lot of us are taught to people please, walk on eggshells, keep our voice down. We're not allowed to speak. We're not allowed to say all of our things. We're afraid that it's going to, and I hear women apologizing. Oh, this is long. I'm really sorry. And I'm like, yeah, you don't understand. Like, don't apologize for that. Right. Like, please don't apologize. So it's a lot of, wow, I didn't realize that I needed that. I didn't realize that hearing other women tell their stories was going to affect me in a way that gave me permission to speak about my own pain.
Yeah.
It's miraculous what's happening after just that first day. They're just like, oh my God. So yeah, that witnessing of, I had a woman who signed up a week late. And the reason was because she's like, I need to be witnessed. I haven't been witnessed in my anger and pain. She goes, I don't even care what the rest of your programs is for. Here's my money. I need to be witnessed, because we don't have that. Yep. And think about what happens when it comes to setting our boundaries and, well, people pleasing is a big one, right? We do that probably with our clients. We do that with new relationships. We do it in our current relationships. We just want to be this like perfect thing. So yeah, it all ties together.
Yeah, it really does. Okay. So Tasha and I were talking about an awakening activity. And so it ties into this witnessing. Don't worry, we're not going to tell you that you need to go scream and cry for the next 20 minutes, though that would probably be really helpful. I mean, obviously, if you're really, really called to, and you can feel yourself like, I desire to really do some work in this area, then obviously get a hold of Tasha. We'll put all of the information around this podcast. But there's jumping off spots. Okay. There's like, like you don't need to, but just play around and be open, because just like Tasha said, those of you who said, I'm not angry. I don't, no.
That's not me.
Yeah, that's not me. You're probably unconsciously sabotaging yourself with food or with wine or with scrolling or with Netflix or with sex or with sarcasm, like being mean to yourself. Like you just stay open. Like there's nothing that's going to hurt from trying this awakening activity. Yes. So Tasha, tell us more about what would be helpful.
So this is actually the first step of before we do the scream exercise. So she asked me, and I was like, oh, I probably have people scream. And I was like, no, I don't think I'm going to have them, like she said, jump off the cliff. Right. So what I would suggest that you do is write out, even if it's 10 pages long, physically, if you can, because it's really powerful to do it in your own handwriting, but if you have to type it out, you can, and write out every single thing that has ever made you angry and upset. I've seen women do 20 pages. And this is the thing that we have them do. We have them write out their anger list. Somebody called it pages of rages, which I thought was funny the other day.
Yeah.
And speak it out loud. So the thing is, what's important about this is not just that you do it, but that you have a woman that you trust that will hold space for you while you do this. That will not say anything, that will not be like, oh, I'm sorry, that will just hold space for you to just read it out loud. And somebody you trust, because if emotions do come up from that, or anger comes up from that, which it probably will, that they're willing to scream with you if you want to, or yell about it, or have you get, emotional about it. So there will be emotions that will come up from that. So just be prepared for that. And you also may just feel like, oh my God, that felt so good just to say it all. But that would be my suggestion. And that will definitely shift some things in you for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So something else that happened when I was in my, week of rage or whatever. So one friend was like, why don't you just be in it? And so I got in it and I was like, yes, I'm going to go in it. I'm in it. And then I was talking to another friend and I was like Marco Poloing her. And I was just like, I was getting all, getting all angry. And I'm like, and this and this and this. And I was like, and I knew she was a safe person. She's a soul sister of mine. And so I just like let it all out. And I'm like, I know that this is not like, the most positive thing or whatever, but this is just where I am. And I'm pissed off at this and I'm pissed off at that. I'm pissed off. So then her response in Marco Polo was so perfect. She was like, you're doing so great.
Oh, yes.
It was just like,
love that.
I know. I was like, it was so validating to me that I I can lead a program like Soul Sister, and have safe women to be able, and not say, or not try to fix it, and she didn't try to fix it. She didn't try to come in and try to make me happy. Nope. She was like, you know what, like, if this is how you're feeling, this is how you're feeling, and you're allowed to feel that. Now, I understand that there's this fine line between processing through and staying in And I
Mhm.
think and I was in it for a few days. So it was really just, but in my body, I was really just like, I'm just still in it, like I'm just
Mhm.
still there. And I just trusted this process of going deep and dark to find the light. The only way out is through. I trusted that when I went in, I was going to find the light eventually. And I didn't try to push it. I didn't try to, like force myself to shift, because my other friend was like, stop trying to tell yourself you need to shift out of this, like that was really nice permission.
Yeah.
And so it took a few days, but then all of a sudden it was really like this little peak of light. And then all of a sudden,
So
I was
beautiful.
like, yeah, like all these little dots connected of like, oh, and this may be why this is happening. And look at this growth that's happening because of this. And look at this that's happening. And there was like this full surrender to the shit that I was pissed off about. And like, I was just like, I really like surrendered to the entire experience and what had happened and all of that. And so now I'm not carrying that around. So I'm not reactive. So I'm not suppressing it. So I'm not taking it out on my kids or my partner or, like, this is what I'm saying is we we say we're afraid of the anger, but the truth is that we can get a little snappy.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're a little snappy, when you notice that you're a little snappy, maybe you got to write your list. Maybe you got to do your awakening activity and just, you got some shit. Don't be afraid of it. Stop avoiding it, because you're actually could be creating kind of an eggshell environment yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. And, I would also highly suggest that if you are going to have a woman witness you, that maybe you offer it to her the same way. Like, hey, you want to write your anger list out too, and I'll hold space for you, or put that out. Even if you don't have someone in your life, put it out to a group you feel safe in, put it out to somebody in your group. I don't know, Nicole, if you're open to that, but put it out there that says, hey, what woman in here is pissed off and angry and wants to do it, write down an anger list and read it to each other. And, at the end, if you both are super pissed, I suggest you count to 3 and scream and let it out. That would be my next, thing to do. Even if you're on Zoom, you can still do that. You don't have to do that in person. You can still 1, 2, 3 scream it out while you're on Zoom together and hold space for each other. So if you feel like you want to, that's not required by any means, but yeah.
Okay, great. So, for anyone just kind of listening right now and not wanting to like look around where, all the links and stuff, can you just tell them really quickly where they can find you?
Yes. So you can go to sisterhoodofsacredfire.com. That's my website. And then you can also search that on Facebook. I have a Facebook group as well. And you can also search that on Instagram. On Instagram, it's sisterhood_of_sacred fire. Sorry about the background noise. So you'll be able to find me there. For sure.
Sacred Fire, not Sacred Rage.
Yeah, Sisterhood of Sacred Fire is my business name, and then the actual program is Women's Sacred Rage. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, this is so good. So hopefully some of you are going to plan on writing your letter and writing your list. And
tell us how it goes. I mean, I would love to hear if people want to message me privately or I'm sure they want to reach out on your page somehow or something and discuss that. Would be a great probably way to just, get that conversation going with women.
Yeah, you're probably just going to realize how good, like you're going to have like this major breath of fresh air afterwards.
Yeah, it's going to feel very like a weight's been lifted.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, Tasha, for coming on. This is so good. Such like a taboo topic that should not be taboo.
No.
But that's kind of the theme this month. Just talking about sisterhood and things like that, which isn't talked about very often either. So anyway, thank you so much for coming on. Yeah. And if you are all feeling like, I'm snippy. I'm sarcastic.
You want to talk about it more. I'm here I do free consult calls. Please reach out to me. All my programs have payment plans, whatever. Just, I don't do sales calls. I do connection calls. Let's go deeper. Let's talk about your story a little bit. Let's find out, if you're like, oh, I don't know. Well, let's talk about it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Explore
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
If there's even a little niggle, of this, then there's probably some stuff to release. And Tasha seems like a great facilitator and space holder to be able to do that. So
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, sisters, until next time, as always, when in doubt, ask your body. Bye. Yes. Okay. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Yes, I know. We don't want to talk about this, but there is so much healing. There's so much transformation that can really happen. You can really free yourself from emotional eating, snapping at your family. Like, there is so much here for you if you just really open yourself up to Tasha's concepts. Right? So if this is resonating with you, please share. There's a link around here. There's some sort of forward button. That would mean so much. And again, we are enrolling for the Soul Sister class within Wildly Alive Mastery. If you've never taken a class with us before, you get an intro rate of $111. Just go to wildlyalive.com/111 and you can jump in with us for the next 30 days and really experience the mastery program for 30 whole days at a killer rate. So next month, we're actually moving on to a very interesting topic. We're talking about money and the health of wealth and also the weight of money. I know it's an interesting topic, but it's so good. I've really shifted my relationship with money in the last few years, and it affects your health more than you realize and how you treat your body. So stay tuned.